Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Mandy and Laura with and Resilience podcast. I'm sorry, it's late in the day when we're recording this, Laura, isn't it, compared to when we usually do it because
Absolutely.
it's the Easter holidays. Yes, I am going slightly mad. I have done a week, and we are now in week 2, counting down the days, ready to go back to school. Um, so the sun is shining. It's a beautiful day, really. How are
It
you,
really is.
Laura?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. Yeah, it is the Easter holidays. I'm sure some of our listeners will know I've got teenage boys in my house. So thanks to the glorious weather we've been having, they're out and about, they're playing football, they're coming back muddy, they're coming back hungry. Which is okay because we still have quite a bit of chocolate in the house. So I'm using that. I'm absolutely using that to my advantage. But yeah, good, thank you. Enjoying a little bit of a break, a little bit of a reprieve from work. But as always, delighted to be here with you today.
Ah, it's always a joy and a pleasure, Laura. What can we say?
What can we say? What can we say? What about you, Mandy? You had that kind of Easter holidays
Yeah.
vibe, which I'm sure loads of our listeners, loads of our watchers will get. Tell us a little bit about why they're holidays today.
It's just full on, isn't it? We've had
Hmm.
a lot of change happen, which for the children in my house is always very, very tricky. So the clocks have changed. Um, my kids do not understand why the clocks had to change and why it's now lighter and why they have to still go to bed because it's 7 o'clock, it's not 8 o'clock. And it's a whole thing. But we've navigated that and we've now got back into the bit of a swing of it. Um, and then it's birthday month. So we've got clocks changing, we've
Oh,
got Easter holidays, we've got my birthday, which was last week, and then we've got my husband's birthday and then my dad's birthday. And so, as we also know, birthdays really are the gift that keeps on giving,
yeah.
with traumatized children because they they just struggle with maybe somebody else is getting
Hmm.
things and they might be forgotten. So that's why
Hmm.
it's the holidays.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I was just thinking as you said that, I wonder if that might be a helpful topic on one of our sessions, one of our future podcasts, Mandy, about about birthdays. And you've already titled it, I think, for us, "The Gift That Keeps on Giving." I'm wondering if that might be something helpful for us to explore as parents, as professionals, but also for our listeners as well. So I think we can pop that one in the bank for next
Let's
time.
put it on our list, I think.
Absolutely.
It's a tricky old subject to navigate, isn't it, really?
Definitely. Definitely, definitely. No, we'll definitely bank that one, and we will obviously let everyone know when that's coming up in future. But today's session is the R&R Exchange, isn't it? This is our question and answer day.
Yes. This is a
Absolutely. So we
time
have got
listeners
go on.
can pick our brains to see if we can find the magic solution that they are obviously desperately looking for. And there's no pressure on us in any way whatsoever.
None whatsoever. None whatsoever. I'm definitely not feeling it, whilst I'm full of mini eggs either. But we've got some great questions today. So thank you as always to the people that do email us, that do message us with these key therapeutic parenting questions. Shall we kick off with the first one?
Yeah, let's share it.
Okie dokie. So this is a lovely question from Seb, and Seb is in Dorset. Thank you, Seb, for the first one for today. And Seb is asking, how can we keep calm when everything is falling apart around us? Wow. I mean, it's the $1 million question when it comes to therapeutic parenting, isn't it? Straight in there today, Seb. Thank you.
Well,
Keeping calm. Mm.
I think we've got to remember that we can't control how other people react and behave. We can only
Mm.
control ourselves. And so when it is safe to do so, I think sometimes the best strategy is to take a step away, take that
Hmm.
breath, regulate ourselves, and then we can start co regulating our children. Um, when I have learned when I am dysregulated, when I'm like, oh my God, there's no way that I can then talk calmly to my child or try and reassure my child that they're going to be okay, because
Mm.
that's not how I'm feeling right now. Um, so yeah, take that step away, take a breath, regulate, get yourself ready to go back in and re-engage.
Definitely, definitely. And we know when we think about our children, when they're needing that co-regulation so they can eventually learn to self-regulate, we know the cortisol levels are up here. My hand is high for those listening. When they're up that high, if our cortisol levels are matching them or even worse, which is possible at times, then there's no way with our high cortisol levels we can expect to be bringing theirs down. So it is very much about we self-regulate, co-regulate, so they self-regulate. It's kind of this 360 package really, isn't it?
And I also think it's really important to remember that as a therapeutic parent, that doesn't mean you have to be in the firing line all the time. Otherwise, you're not
Yeah.
meeting your child's needs. If you
Mhm,
have a child who is being aggressive or being violent towards you, have a plan, have a strategy of
mhm,
when this happens, this is the safe place that we're going to guide them to. This is going to be my exit route. This is going to be how I'm going to manage that situation, and have that plan already in mind so that when those situations come up, you're not then having to think on your feet whilst also being dysregulated and also thinking you're a really bad parent because your child's having a massive meltdown, especially if it's in public. You've got that embarrassment and that judgmental thing going on as well. Just, yeah, be prepared if you have a child that is likely to react in those kind of ways. We've talked about it before on other episodes. Um, but yeah, being a therapeutic parent doesn't mean I have to put myself in the firing line and be my child's punching bag because I
mm.
want them to be co-regulated by me. That's not
Absolutely.
what this is about.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, there's a bit about holding boundaries there, isn't there? In order to be therapeutic and calm, we hold a boundary with ourselves as well as the children, don't we? In order to, like you said, not be that punching bag, not consistently be the target, not always be in the firing line as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just thinking about that, Mandy, I know I've spoken to people before about things like the use of distraction. When you can feel that bubbling, when you can feel things rising, when you can feel the tension, the atmosphere, you
Mhm.
can almost see, can't you, the cortisol going blah, 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 getting higher and higher and higher. You can almost see it in some of your children, particularly when people know their children really well. Maybe not so easy earlier on, and you're still forming those relationships and we're still getting used to how each other function, but definitely over time. Have you been able to use any kind of distraction techniques so you kind of get in there early so that your calmness is the most effective earlier on? Or if, how easy is that? Again, it's the $1 million question
I think
alongside this.
I think you're quite right. It depends on the child. Um,
Mm,
so I looked after a child who just seemed to go from 0 to 100 in the blink of an eye, never really
mm,
knew why, never really knew what was going on. And so it was really difficult to get in there at the right time to do the distraction methods. It would just rile her up more and more. Whereas I've had other children that have managed that much, much better. And so, yeah, we can do that. Um, let's get the colouring books out. Let's go and play a game in the garden if the weather's nice,
mm,
you know, oh, I can hear the ice cream van coming. Should we go and get an ice cream? Something to do that
mm, mm,
distracting. Yes. Um, you are your child's expert. So you
mm,
have to know what works and what doesn't work, which is why I think it is that $1 million question, because there
mm,
is no one size fits all. It's about preparing yourself for, I don't know, going on a long car journey. Um, we've been talking about what we've been up to during the holidays, just you and I, haven't
mm,
we? Um,
mm,
And I know that if we are in the car for a certain amount of time, my children will get really fidgety and they won't be able to predict where we're going, and we're getting further away from their safe space. And so that might make them a little bit more bubbly than normal. So
mm,
I'll bring out um, a word search or can you see finding game or
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? I'll pull something out of
Yeah.
the bag sort of half journey just so that I can distract them and keep their attention and we can keep doing what we have to do. Um, all of those kind of things can work if it will suit your child. Um,
Mm.
that's it
Yeah.
really, I think.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of preparation attached to that. And again, I've certainly worked with people where you have to plan ahead, plan B, plan C, plan D, even sometimes all the way to Z. Sometimes we're going that far, aren't we, with what our plans might look like, but also not just having different plans in place for when things may or may not go wrong or we need to shift course a little bit, but also planning for, you almost need to be 2 or 3 steps ahead with children with trauma. We need to preempt so many things. So do you think when we're thinking about keeping calm, as Seb has very understandably asked in his question, when it feels like everything's falling apart, does that planning really help? There's that phrase, isn't there? And I'm going to be very careful how I use it. Something poor planning leads to, I can't remember, is it? I can't, something about the outcomes or something. I'm sure everyone knows what I mean. But if you haven't planned, it's like prepare to fail, fail to prepare,
And I think it's
say
also,
prepare to fail. There's something like that, isn't there? But does something like that feel like that kind of fits a little bit as a therapeutic parent? Because you were just talking about having your plan in place kind of for safety, but also, things you can literally pull out the bag in the car. So is there something about planning to help maintain some level of calm?
I plan even when I've had teenagers as if I'm going for a day out with a baby. If you were to
Mm-hmm.
take the baby out, you'd make sure you got your nappy bag and you've got nappy and you've got spare change clothes and you've got your milk and you've got all of the things that you need to keep that baby healthy, safe and nurtured throughout the time that you are away with
Yeah.
them. And traumatized children, I don't think much about. I'm not saying you should pack a nappy bag, but I'm saying that that level of preparation is
Mm-hmm.
sometimes what's needed, and it is exhausting and it does make things more difficult. But once you've done that over a certain amount of time and the child starts to believe and trust in what you're saying, then you can take your foot off the gas a little bit. But you have to go all in to start off with to give them that message above everything else of you're okay, we've got you, you're safe, I see you, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to forget about you.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they realize that they can trust in what you're saying and what you're doing, then yeah, you can take your foot off the gas a little bit. You don't need to take a whole school bag full of colouring just so that you can go out for dinner in the evening or at lunchtime. You can allow them to make decisions and choices with a bit more guidance maybe, but you don't have to be so all in. Um, it takes time because you're teaching
Yeah.
your child a new way of thinking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do literally rewiring the brain, aren't we? And that
Yeah.
we know how time consuming that is. Absolutely. I'm just thinking about the final part to hopefully finish answering Seb's question was you mentioned there about it being kind of exhausting and tiring. And again, I'm sure everybody that listens to this episode of the podcast will be going, oh my goodness, yes, Mandy, we're exhausted, particularly as it is now the Easter holidays and we're not having that kind of 9 till 3 reprieve that hopefully most of the parents or caregivers on here will be having. But where was I going with this? Where was I going with this, Mandy? Yeah, thinking about kind of not work-life balance, but having a bit of me time, a bit of time to catch up. Do you think that adds to the calm as well? Obviously, making sure that you've had a bit of time for yourself and a bit of balance to the parenting and who you are outside of parenting helps to contribute to that. Because none of us can pour from the proverbial empty cup, can we?
That's what I was just about to say. Gosh, we know each other so
Great
well,
mind.
Laura.
Great
It's like we
mind.
hang out or
Great mind.
something.
Honestly.
Um, you can't pour for an empty cup. And we know that there is more to our lives than just looking after our children. We have other stresses, we have bills to pay, we have cars we need to look after. There's, DIY jobs around the house, the grass needs cutting. All of these things put more pressure on us, the same as every other adult who has to be doing this adulting thing. but we have to be more aware of the impact that our day-to-day stresses has on our children, because our children will not understand that that's an adult problem, but they've still got us. They haven't got that secure, trusting relationship with us a lot of the time.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
so yeah, it is harder, and it's so important to spend just 5 minutes every
yeah.
day doing something to remind you of who you were before you became a parent, before you
Mm,
had a child that had these additional needs, these high emotions that are really draining for us. Because otherwise we lose our identity. And then
yeah.
again, I find it really, really hard to then be present with my child when they really need
Mm,
me. If I'm,
mm,
oh my God, all I want to do is go to bed and watch trashy TV and sneak chocolate biscuits.
absolutely. Who doesn't want to do that?
Oh, I want to do it all the time.
Especially in Easter holidays.
Especially holidays.
Definitely, definitely. Cool. I think hopefully Seb, lovely Seb in lovely Dorset, hopefully we have answered that in depth for you. Question number two, Mandy?
Bring it on.
Bring it on. Question number two is from Sam in Devon. Lovely places. Everyone's from lovely places this week. I'm loving the fact that our guests are spread out. Um, Sam is asking, how do we stop a child when they're at risk and easily triggered?
Mm.
Wow. Again, the million dollar questions. Lovely people, lovely places, big questions, big answers. How do we stop them when they're at risk and easily triggered? I guess it comes back a little bit to some of the stuff we were talking about with distraction and planning. Again, I feel like there's a big link between question one and question two here,
Yeah.
isn't there? Distraction, planning, maintaining your own calm, and if you've got a child who is what we would consider risky, again, I always wonder about how that's portrayed in some social work reports.
Hmm.
What does risky actually look like to everybody? What does it mean? What are we seeing? What are we doing about it? But easily triggered, we do need to be maintaining our own sense of calm. We do need to be planning. We need a plan B, C, D, E, F, all the letters. And we need to be thinking really well ahead, I guess, as well.
I think if we know that we have a child who can display some of those more risky behaviours, like,
Mm,
I don't know, a small child not holding your hand across the road because they don't like physical
mm.
contact, um, then that's when we've got to come up with a different plan. So it might be that they have to hold your arm. Um,
Yeah.
we very exciting. I'm going to share a little story with you.
Go for it. Love a story.
We went and watched Diversity, the dance group, at the
No,
weekend. It was incredible. Please, if you like Diversity, it's an incredible show, and the storyline is epic. Anyway, that's a whole different topic. But my story is, it was absolutely heaving because we were not the only people who are going to watch Diversity. I know it's a
uh-huh.
shocker. Um, there were
No private performance.
thousands of people, and I had 3 children with me, 2 of which get very easily distracted, and I could lose them in the crowd incredibly easily because they would
Mm,
just stare at something and then wander off, and they're yeah, I mean, it was a risky situation
mm,
to put us in. So what we did and these, they're 12, they don't wanna be holding my hand, that's a bit, they someone from school might see them, ugh. Um, but what they did, we kind of made a little bit of a crocodile line, and one of them held onto my handbag strap on my shoulder, and then the one behind them held onto their hoodie top, and then the one behind them held onto their bag, and then my
mhm.
husband pulled up, took up the rear, so to speak. So we had a little row of ducks all going along.
Nice, nice.
That, although sounds very complicated, and I'm sorry for the long story, but it's such a simple thing to
Yeah.
put in place. So if you have a child that might easily wander off or walk off, get them to hold onto your bag. If they let go of the bag, stop. and then teach
Mm.
them to come back. I need to keep you safe. You need to hold on to my bag. You don't need to hold my hand, but you do need to hold on to my bag because it's really, really busy, or we're by a
Mhm.
busy road. And do that
Mhm.
level of explaining so that they understand the why behind your decision. Um, if it's risky when you're driving, think about the seating arrangements. I have seating arrangements everywhere. There's a seating arrangement at the dining table so that we don't have
Mhm.
arguments and
Mhm.
fallings out. There's seating arrangement in the lounge on the sofa so that nobody can fight and fall out. But we also have a seating arrangement in the car,
Mhm.
so people don't fight and fall out. But we also
Sure.
started that because any car journey would be really, really hard for one of my young people to deal with. And
Yeah.
he would just lash out at me, which was really dangerous when I was driving. So he never sat
Yeah.
behind me. I mean, I learnt the hard way,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
he never sat behind me. We sat him in a place where he couldn't kick me or try and strangle me with a seatbelt or do any of that kind of stuff. So it is about that forward thinking of,
Mm.
right, we're going to go to the shop. If my child's pushing the trolley and they keep two hands on the trolley, then I know they're not going to steal stuff. Or um, if we're going to a clothing store and it's quite busy and they're holding onto my handbag, I know where they are. They're not going to hide
Mhm.
in and amongst the clothes rails and then I've lost them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, do you think?
Definitely, definitely. And as I was thinking, some of our listeners will be going, "Yeah, this all makes a lot of sense," and so on and so on. But I was just thinking about just adding in that little kind of trauma-informed bit because we're talking about risky behaviours and being easily triggered through that. And I think, one of the things that's important for everyone to reflect on is that when we see risk, when we see these risky behaviours, these challenging behaviours, as they're quite often written about in reports, and not in a trauma informed way a lot of the time, is we know that a lot of this comes from a place of fear. So our children are being triggered by something fearful and it manifests in what can be considered as a risky behavior. So I think when we've got that trauma informed approach and we're going, what's the need beneath the behavior? What is it we're actually seeing here? When I'm being curious, when I'm really seeking to understand my child, how am I managing the thing that's triggering them, the thing that's most fearful? And there are lots of things that we absolutely can do that. We can reduce the intensity, the frequency, but we can never eradicate all of it because we still have to function in the world. But when we understand that, I wonder then how much we then start to reduce the impact and the intensity and the frequency of those so-called risky behaviors at times. And I think if we can do some of that,
Yeah.
we may see a shift. But we remember that these things are not a magic wand overnight. It is rewiring that brain. And one of the things that you were just talking about, Mandy, in terms of, literally where people sit at various places, where you hold on, where you can be have a little bit more freedom. It's about predictability. Your children know where they sit in the car, and that's safe and predictable. Therefore, the likelihood of something risky happening is reduced. We know where they sit at the dinner table, and therefore the likelihood of anything risky happening with a fork being thrown or,
Hmm.
God forbid, a knife or anything like that, or just the mashed potato being lobbed, and we turn into the whole, Hook, Peter Pan, dinner table, Bannerang Peter kind of thing. Who loves Hook? That'll be me. But we reduce the risk of that kind of thing happening. And again, when we understand the need, we hopefully start to over time reduce the what that risk looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can't be completely risk averse. We can't
Hmm.
go around
Hmm.
wrapped in bubble wrap and never experience anything. We need to allow us and our children to experience things, but do it in the safest way possible.
Yeah.
And if they are triggered, um, then reduce that trigger by being really factual with our response to them. So if I had a child that ran out into the road, yeah, my probable first response would be, "Oh my God, don't run out in the road."
Mm,
But
mm.
that's probably what's triggered him because he then thinks I'm cross with him. So I need
Yeah.
to change how I'm reacting to that behavior to try and minimize that shame that our children carry so much of. Um,
Yeah.
so, that you've done this, you keep running out in the road. So therefore, this is how we're going to move forward. You're going to have to hold my bag. You're going to have to walk on this side. You're going to have to, whatever the solution
Mhm.
is to try and reduce it. And then during those calm moments, I think you're absolutely right. Have those more in-depth chats of, I saw that you did this and I found
Mhm.
that really scary. I just wonder how you felt about that,
Mm.
and unpick it a little bit with them and
Yeah.
see what's actually going on for them at that moment.
Mm. Yeah. So we've got some planning in there. We've got some, some trauma informed and trauma responsive things that we can do in there, but we've also got some reflective space afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Thank you, Sam from Devon. I think we are ready for question number 3.
Okay.
Let's go for it. This is from Adam. Adam's in the Midlands. And Adam is wondering, how do we work out which battles to pick when all you do is battle?
When I can
All we're doing is
remember
battling.
that first induction into fostering, and all I
Mm-hmm.
was told was, remember to pick your battles. And I was like,
Mm.
yeah, yeah, I'll do that. Of course I will. I had no idea what they were talking about. And I think some things need to be corrected.
Mm.
But if it's not impacting on me personally, and maybe I'm getting a little bit too old and cynical now, Laura, please tell me if I am. If it's not
Oh, I will.
impacting,
Don't worry.
if it's not impacting me directly, then let it go. If it's not
Mm.
going to damage them, let it go. They're
Yeah.
going to open their curtains. Oh well. That
Shame,
to
shame.
me is like, just let it go. If it's something that is going to be more serious and critical to them, like they won't eat any of their dinner, um,
Mm.
then that's slightly different, and you do need to have some time to
Yeah.
try and understand what that is all about. But
Mm.
yeah, I don't have time or energy to be picking on everything all the time. But I think it's really
Yeah.
easy for us to get sucked into that trap. And I'm sure that
Mm.
you do it with your boys. You know,
Oh, honestly.
every day I ask you to just hang your coat up. Why can't you just hang your coat? And then
It's
if
the towel, Mandy. It's the towel on the bedroom floor that now stinks because it's been there 3 days.
yeah,
And do you know what? It is affecting me personally because I can smell it when I walk up the stairs. So I've had enough now. But I guess when we're thinking about it with children with trauma, I'm just thinking about the pick your battles bit. What do we pick? What do we not? I guess that, some people might be listening now and thinking, but is that really therapeutic? Yes, it is, because the things that we don't pick but might affect them a little bit, not in a risky way, of course, but a little bit. We've got the cause and effect thinking there. So if you don't pick up your towel and put it
mhm,
on the radiator or the towel thingamabobbly in the bathroom to dry, then actually when you go to have a shower the next day or the next morning or whenever you choose to shower next, because that might not be daily with some of our children, but whenever you go to shower next, you're not going to have a nice, warm, dry, fluffy towel. It's going to be damp and stinky.
yeah, yeah,
So there's your logical and natural consequence. If you don't pick it up, it's going to be gross.
yeah.
It's going to be really, really yucky, and you are not going to feel clean and fresh after using half a bottle of Lynx and half a pack of Clearasil for your face. You
I,
know, this is what we're talking about here, isn't it? So when we pick our battles, yeah. I mean, if we've got a child that's struggling with hygiene in this situation, yes, we might choose to reinforce that, to pick it up, to provide the nurture alongside that. But if not, we could kind of go, well, that's a shame. That's a shame that your towel wasn't. We're not going to shame the child for not picking it up, but we are going to say, oh, that's a shame that it didn't feel quite so nice today. I wonder what you could do about that when you finish today or tomorrow or whatever.
and I think that is exactly, instead of picking your battles or finding battles everywhere, put some of the responsibility and ownership, obviously depending on your child and depending on the situation and the circumstances. Um, but you can put some of that ownership back over onto your child. So you didn't pick your towel up. Well, that's a real shame. That must have
Mhm,
been really that must have been really hard for you when you went to freshen up in the shower and you had a manky,
mhm.
smelly towel that you were trying to dry yourself with.
Yeah.
How can I help you to get over that now? What can we do
Mhm.
differently? Um, yeah, just what you can, we've in our house, we say we're gonna just be like Elsa. We just let it go. Um, we do quite a lot of Elsaing in our house because
Nice.
sometimes it's about thinking why that child is doing that behavior. Is
Mm.
it so that they can keep your attention and keep you
Yeah.
engaged with them? Because we
Yeah.
also know that any interaction is better than no interaction at all.
Mm. Mm. I was just thinking as well, there's probably a little bit of a caveat we should put in here. I'm just thinking, going back to the towel as an example. And again, it's about knowing your child and knowing their history, because if that particular child has come from chronic neglect, and they probably were never shown that a nice warm fluffy towel can be on the radiator ready for you. They may not have had nice warm fluffy towels to start with. You
Mm.
know, they might have drip dried, they might have used toilet roll or kitchen roll or whatever clothes were lying around. We just don't know some of these things. So I think we do have to have a little bit of a caveat about knowing your child's history. Like you were just saying, Mandy, understanding the reason behind this. What's the need behind this? Yes, it might be to keep your attention, and therefore is attachment building, because we don't think about it quite as attention seeking, do we, when we're being therapeutic? It is about that attachment seeking. But if you know your child has come from a place of chronic neglect, if we're thinking about them almost recreating that familiar environment, familiar vibe, familiar atmosphere that they were used to, then of course that is a battle that we probably would pick, but again, in a really empathic way. And it might be that actually it is us as the adults and as the parents that do pick up that towel and we do put it on the radiator every day for years, for literally years, before that child realizes they are worthy of a nice, warm, fluffy towel
Yeah.
every time they are washed, every time they are clean. They are
Yeah.
worthy of having the socks that they haven't put in the basket for the billionth time that week. Actually, somebody does do that for them because they are worthy of having nice, warm, fluffy socks on every day. That's okay. So again, I think, for some people who might be thinking, but I don't know if that would work for my child, I'm not sure the message they would get. Absolutely, go back, reread their history, ask to see their files, reflect on it with either your supervising social worker or your manager if you're in a children's home, or somebody else that you can find that will help you with that. Because yes, there is a pick your battle. Yes, there is a cause and effect thinking. There is, natural and logical consequences, but we do have to be mindful, of course, of the child's history as well.
And also if they are, um, neurodivergent with a diagnosis,
Mm,
then that may also
mhm,
be part of that. If I've got a child who's got ADHD, they're gonna really struggle to think things through
mm,
logically. Like, I go
mm,
back to my room after breakfast and I've brushed my teeth and I get dressed and then I open my curtains and then I make my bed. They won't be able to remember that sequence of things.
mm,
So, um, nagging them is not gonna change that. They're not gonna suddenly go, "Oh, yeah, I'm gonna get nagged at, so I'm gonna change that behavior." They don't do it on purpose. Um,
yeah.
Again, understand your child and really get to know what that need is.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Awesome. Great question. Thank you, Adam. Time for question number 4. We've got a couple left. Penultimate question. So this is from Tim in Truro, and he said, "How do you deal with other professionals in the network?" Ooh, I love a professional question. Social workers, IROs, and school, as an example, when they see a different child to the one you live with.
I mean, I
Mandy, I feel like
wouldn't
you've been there,
know.
done that, worn the t-shirt, burnt the t-shirt, you know. Let's, because obviously we're looking at this from two different perspectives. Give me that parenting perspective, and then I can think about it from that social worker point of
It
view as well.
it's so incredibly hard. It's so hard because I'm the parent, I'm living with this child, I am picking up the pieces with them at the end of the day when things have all gone wrong, when they've gone to school or they've done an activity that's been suggested by a professional in the network. Uh, uh, and I'm picking up the pieces all the time. Um,
Mm,
and what I have found in some meetings that I've been to is like I've kind of tapped on the head. I think I've said it on here before as well. I get tapped on the
mm,
head of, "Oh,
mm,
there, good parent, and but you don't belong
mm,
here." Has let us big professional people speak. Um,
mm,
and actually, my point of view should be just as valid as everybody else's because I know the child better than anybody else.
mhm,
Um, so yeah, it can be really emotive. It can be really hard to try and judge how you pitch things as well. Um, yeah. Come on, social worker, ex-social worker. How could I build a good relationship with you as a parent? Come on then.
I think for me, it's about being very open and honest. I think there is a little bit about remembering that everybody is here for the child. And I think sometimes we need to remind each other of that. You know,
Yeah.
I've certainly sat in meetings where I've gone, hang on a minute, I think we've lost focus here. Who was it we're talking about again? Oh, you
Yeah.
have remembered. You have remembered the child in all of this, have you? And you know, I've had some filthy looks in the past, but I'll take them because I was never here for the happy smiley faces. I was here for the child every time. So I think remembering who we're here for, whether that's a child, whether it's siblings, whether it's a group in a home, whatever that might look like. Yeah, I think we're bringing it back to the child every single time, remembering why we're all there. Yeah, as I've said, openness, transparency. Again, reminding people that we're not here to judge each other, we're here to support each other. That's
Mm.
what a team does. That it's not about he said, she said, I'm going to win. The only win is when we see a development for the child. That's the wins for me. So I think reminding each other a little bit about that as well. And I think, again, acknowledging the fact that, yes, the child is going to present differently in school. They are going to present differently with their social worker. They are going to present differently at family time, at contact. They are going to present differently with different people because actually, as human beings, most of us do that a little bit. Whether we admit it or not, we all do it a little bit. You know, the conversations we're having now, Mandy, I don't talk to my children like this. I don't talk to my husband like this. I certainly don't talk to my best friend like this.
Mm.
You know, it's just different. I don't talk to my clients like this. There's probably more of a theme, you know, obviously with what we're doing, but
Yeah.
you know, that we're all a little bit different. And again, you know, reminding each other when you're a child with trauma and your brain has been completely affected in terms of relationships, social skills, learning, memory, and so on and so on. Of course, you're going to present differently because you are consistently in survival mode
Yeah.
and you will have to survive differently in front of different people. So I think acknowledging the fact that yes, we all do know a different version of little Jimmy because that's what Jimmy shows us, because that's how Jimmy feels safe.
I
So I think
love
there's a bit
the
of an acknowledgement about that. That's okay. That's okay. We don't all have to know the same version.
I love the fact that you've highlighted there that actually as adults we do it. There's a work
Mm,
mode Mandy, there's a
absolutely.
socializing Mandy, there's a you know, there's a mum Mandy. There is different hats that we put on,
Mm,
and
mm,
we do different behaviors depending on the people that
mhm,
we're with. Um, I think that that is part of our skills as human beings is we do adapt to make sure that we can fit into social settings. We need to express that our children are doing that as well. And you know, it's fantastic that social workers have, you know, been in a situation where they can have their further education and get their degrees and do that job. The
mm,
same with
mm,
teaching staff. I know some incredibly good teachers. I also know some that aren't quite so good. Um, it's the same everywhere. But just because you've got a degree in social work and I haven't, doesn't mean that you are automatically the expert on my child.
exactly. Exactly.
We all
Exactly.
have something to contribute to the pot. And I would recommend to any parent who feels that they are not having their views listened to by any professionals in any network, be that school or social work,
Mm,
keep advocating for yourself and for your child.
yeah.
That's such
Yeah.
an important thing to do, and you have every right to do it. As long as you're not coming across as rude or aggressive, obviously I'm not
Hmm.
encouraging people to do that. Um,
Mm,
but definitely put your point across.
mm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm assuming when Tim asked the question, it was maybe linked to meetings, reviews, and so on and so on. If we're talking about IROs, social workers, schools, etc. The other thing that I've always liked to see people do and have aimed to encourage is, I guess, the poo sandwich method. Some people will call that a slightly more extreme, where you start with something nice as your first slice of bread. You kind of go for the more difficult stuff in the middle, and then you end nicely with your second slice of bread. Um, So really just thinking about that, try and always end on a high, and of course relate that to the child. And we know that the wins with our children will sometimes look and feel maybe a bit more smaller, maybe a bit more insignificant compared to perhaps their securely attached or neurotypical peers, but always
Mhm.
try and end on a high. One of the things I will quite often do in a difficult group session, if it's felt really intense, if it's felt really hard, is just spend the last 5 minutes not trying to bring in that toxic positivity, but we talked about all the difficult stuff today. Can you tell me your favorite thing about so and so?
Yeah.
And just to bring in just a little bit of light in people's faces, see their body language relax a little bit, hopefully get some smiles.
Mhm.
And again, we get to leave that session by just thinking again about that young person, about that little boy, that little girl that's inside that desperately wants secure relationships. And actually, what's brilliant about them?
Absolutely, and there is always at least one thing that will make people smile about every one of the
Definitely.
children that I've looked after. I mean, I can tell some horror stories, and I have done on here, but there's always been something about them that you go, "Oh, yeah, they might have done this really terrible thing, but their
Mm,
sense of humour was absolutely incredible."
yeah.
They hated school and they were really badly behaved, but they turned up every day and they wore the correct uniform. You know,
Mhm.
there is always something that you can bring that's positive to a meeting. Always.
Mhm. Mhm. Definitely. It's funny, I remember you just talking about going to school. I remember working with a foster parent years ago who had a school refuser and gone in to do sort of my monthly supervision. Did all the, the box ticky bits, and then I was so tell me in general, how are things? What's your highlight been since I saw you? I said, "Oh, I don't really know if it's really a highlight, but they did actually go to school for 2 mornings last week." And then she sort of rolled her eyes and sipped her coffee, and I was like, "Are you joking?" And she was like, "What? What? Is that not okay?" And I was like, "That's a 40% increase from the last time." I said, "If you'd
Yeah.
have had a 40% pay rise, you wouldn't be calling that insignificant, would you?" And she was like, "No, I wouldn't." She's like, "Can I get a 40?" No, I didn't mean I'm gonna no. But when you look at it that way, she was like, "Oh my God, 40% is huge." Yes.
Yeah.
Give yourself a pat on the back, drink your coffee.
Yeah.
This is not insignificant. This is huge, and this is because of what you're doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm, definitely. Okay, final question for today.
Oh,
And this is from Michaela, who says, "Really enjoying the podcast. Thank you, Michaela. Have a question for you ladies. Do you have any tips for when your child comes home from school? It's had a really good day, but then they're moody, come across as rude and not chatty. My son struggles to deal with his emotions sometimes. Any help appreciated. Thank you both." Interesting. So we're looking at what are we looking at here? After school restraint collapse. We've held our emotions together all day.
could be.
We've complied in the best possible way we can. We've tried to learn. We've tried to focus. We've tried to manage our peer and adult relationships. And then we've come home to our safe space.
We let it all
What's
go,
happening
don't we?
now?
We
Let
we
it all go.
we've been on that treadmill all day long, running and
Mhm.
running and running, and how
Yeah.
exhausted must her son be? He must be so, so
Mm.
tired at the end of the day, holding it all together, doing the best that he possibly can. Um, so I think, yeah, tired, doesn't have to keep the mask on anymore and can just be
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a reflection on her parenting in any way whatsoever.
Absolutely not.
And I think that's a really, really key point to remember. It's not anything that we do as parents that make our
Mhm.
children feel the way they do. In fact, what we are
Mm.
doing is we're giving them that sense of security and that sense of safety where they are able to take that mask off. And it's so important that they are able to do that because if children mask constantly all the time, they can go into burnout and
Mhm.
that's horrific for anyone to
Mhm.
experience.
Mhm.
So giving them that safety and giving them that space, I I would probably, if it was my child, I'd probably have um, a drink and a snack
Mhm.
ready for the end of the
Bit of a
school day,
refuel.
bit
Bit
of
of
a
a refuel.
refill,
Yeah.
and then I would go into having a set amount of time with no pressure.
Mm.
So really low demand environment. Um, even if it was just for half an hour, if they were, I'm not saying for them to just go on gaming or going on a tablet
Mhm, mhm,
or
mhm,
doing going back to the earlier question, doing some of those more risky behaviors that we don't really want to
mm,
encourage, but
mm,
just, you know, giving those really, really simple choices. You can go and play in your room, or you can do some colouring with me at the table. What would you like to do? Real low
mhm.
demand, and just, yeah, be a little bit Elsa, let it go. Just
Yeah.
that's what I think I would do. Um, yeah, just take the pressure off because he's doing a
Mm,
cracking job by going into school every day and getting through it.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's a huge transition, isn't it? I don't know how much we really recognize that sometimes. I think when we think about transitions for children, we think about the big things like moving between homes,
No.
school holidays,
Mm,
suddenly we're not in a school routine, but actually it is a transition to finish your school headspace and then come home being your home headspace. It is a transition in itself. And some people I know will manage that transition with a bit of a break in between. So, weather permitting and depending on your route and your times and things like that is, a stop at the park to kind of let some of that anxiety and some of that energy go if it's in
mhm.
there. Wouldn't you much rather they bounced it out on the trampoline or swung it out on the monkey bars or the swing or by shooting up and down the slide? Is it not better that it comes out there? Again, you would have to know your child to manage any risks attached to that. But is that a possibility? If you have a trampoline at home, could you even come in the back door or the side gate or something and just right? You've got 20 bounces before we have our snack. Off you go. And again, we know that this rhythmic, repetitive kind of stuff helps with cortisol. So again, literally going to enter the home a little bit less anxious, a little
Mhm.
bit less stressed before they've even reached the house. But yeah, I really like the whole low demand stuff, colouring, playing, listening to music. If they've got a TV show they like, maybe one episode, because what's that? Probably 20, 30 minutes.
Mm, mm.
Agree that you're going to watch, episode 3 today, episode 4 tomorrow, whatever it might be. Yeah. And I was thinking about sensory stuff, Mandy. I don't know if you've had this before, but sensory snacks, crunchy carrots, apples, cucumbers. So you've got a bit of sensory feedback within that. Maybe something really cold from the fridge to drink, a milkshake or some juice. So again, you get that sensory, or even a hot chocolate, a hot drink sometimes might be more nurturing as well.
And working out what their favourite is. Don't always rely
Mm,
on a pack of chocolate biscuits because then you're adding
yeah,
sugar into it, and if they've got high
yeah,
cortisol, we know that that combination doesn't work very well together.
yeah.
So I love the idea about the crackers or the carrot sticks,
Mm,
something crunchy and something cold or hot.
mm,
Yeah, that's a really good thing. What it has made me think is hearing you talk about the transitions,
mm.
um, before COVID, when people actually went out to a workplace, I don't know if you can remember
Yeah,
those times, um,
yes.
you'd have that transitional period from when you left work to when you came home, where
Mm,
you could, just go over the last couple of bits of work that you did at the day and put that in your little box brain, and that's fine. And then kind of prepare yourself for walking through the door when you're at home. And now I'm in home mode, and this is what I'm going to be doing. I've seen my husband struggle with working at home, walking out of the office door, and then transitioning straight away to, well, I'm at home now, and oh, the kids suddenly want all my attention, and what, I need to go and fix something, and this has gone, and that. He's still in work mode. And that time of transitioning between work and home, that can leave him a little bit discombobulated at times. So then if
mm,
you put that into the context of a child who has trauma or neurodiverse issues, um, why are we expecting them to just flick a switch and be able to make that
mm,
transition?
mm.
Okay. Again, a little bit like we were saying about the different people in different situations, we're
Yeah,
putting expectations on every child to do things that actually we don't do as adults. So why can children do them? And then you
yeah,
add that layer of additional emotional need onto the top of it. Come on now. Let's just be kind to ourselves and to our children. They're doing a really good job. Michaela's doing a really good job as a parent. She's
yeah.
she's looking to do things therapeutically. I always think that's a brilliant win. She's there.
Definitely,
She's read the signs with her son. She knows that he's struggling. She can pinpoint the times that he's struggling. This is all
definitely.
showing you're a really good parent, by the way. It's
Yeah.
nothing that she's doing, and it's not actually his fault either. It's just how his brain is processing the world
Mhm.
so much right now.
Definitely. And probably not understanding that, is he? Because it's clouded. So, I guess the other thing Michaela might want to add in, and again, picking her times, she will know her son well enough, is to name the need.
Yeah,
Name it for him, because if you can't figure out why he's feeling that way, there's probably some shame and blame and guilt attached to that. And another layer that will, of course, will make him moody. So, naming the need when he's able to hear it, being curious, being empathic. I wonder if when you come home sometimes, your brain is just so overloaded from the day, it's really hard to come back here. Even though you love your bedroom, even though you love this house, even though we love you coming back in every day, that could be really hard. That's really tough.
yeah,
Your brain is figuring out how to finish school and then how to be at home. And it's not as simple as just, 3 o'clock and bam, we're over.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
okay that you can be like that. I don't like you being rude. We don't need the rudeness, so she can hold her boundary.
yeah,
There's no need for some of these words. If you've got, we can do the whole if you've got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all, because that's not the worst advice in the world. But I get it, and it's okay. And maybe they could then establish a code word. If he's really not chatty, if he's really moody, if he doesn't have the mental capacity or the physical space to be able to have a conversation, one word, one code word.
yep,
If he's just said to her, bananas, and
absolutely.
she'll go, right, bananas, that's it, we know,
I was
that'll
thinking
be that.
pineapple, but we'll go with bananas if you want to.
Pineapple, prickly pineapple. Yes, I love that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. So a code word maybe between them. She can say it if she can see him getting a little bit prickly. Bananas, 10-minute break.
yep,
Or he can go bananas, and then
yep,
she'll know that that's that. And then we can avoid the rudeness, the silliness, the upset that might cause, having to have different types of reflective conversations about language and social skills, and actually meeting that need head on rather than kind of going through the motions of the other stuff.
yeah. Love that. Well, what some incredible questions today.
Love that this week.
I've really enjoyed that. Hopefully, we've helped some
Same.
people out.
I hope so.
If not,
I
you've
hope
had
so.
a little bit of, getting it off your chest about your son's towel on the floor. I hope that makes you feel a little bit lighter now.
Mandy, it's still there. I can picture it in my head. It's still there. I'm wondering how therapeutic I feel after this conversation. Do I go and pick it up, or do I let it stink? See, well, one of them's on a sleepover tonight somewhere else, so he's not even here to deal with it. Not even here.
Well, I'm always here if you need a little bit of a safe space to just have a chat
Thank
and talk
you.
it through. I'm here for you, Laura. Okay.
I appreciate it.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. You and the chocolate biscuits in the drawer. Winner. Absolute winner. I think that brings us to the end of the day, Mandy. End of
Oh,
today's episode.
I've got more holidays to go, so I need to
Well,
get back
holiday.
on it.
You do.
It's a
You
joy and
do.
a
I
fun.
think we've got time for a coffee. We've got time to replenish our caffeine and our energy. And then, yeah, we'll be back next time. Can you remember the topic of the next session?
I can you? Haha.
No.
Next time, we are going to be talking about triggers and signs. So that could be something that's
What is that?
triggering for our children, or it could be something that actually, as parents or people who work with traumatized children, we find really triggering. So,
Mm,
yeah, we'll do lots and lots of triggering each other next time.
excellent. Can't wait. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for the questions. Please do tune in next time for our next episode on triggers and signs, and we will see you soon. Take care. Bye.
Bye.